Queen Elizabeth tests positive for the cove. Mild symptoms. Guys, she's 96. Queen Elizabeth tested positive for the cove on Sunday and has experienced mild and cold-like symptoms. Buckingham Palace said, adding that she plans to still carry on working. She's a workhorse, right, Joanne? Why are you such a lazy lump? You know? No, I know you're anchored down and you've got a humongo car. I'm just saying, why are you a lazy lump? Elizabeth has been in robust health for most of her reign, has been photographed riding a horse as recently as 2020, Joanne. Joanne, why don't you ride a friggin' horse? I forget, you're friggin' anchored to the ground. Hot air balloon carditis. First of her kind. She's in the record books. The Queen's doctor ordered her to rest after that, and she was forced to cancel appearances at several key events, including Remembrance Sunday services and the COP26 climate conference in Glasgow, Scotland in November. Joanne, did you go to that one? Forgot you're freaking anchored. This month, she returned to public duties and has held audiences both virtually and in person with diplomats, politicians, and senior military officers. During one exchange caught on camera last week, she walked slowly with a stick and said, "As you can see, I can't move," in apparent reference to her leg. The Queen delivered 2 televised messages to the nation early in the pandemic in 2020 and has sought to lead by example. She let it be known that she has been bugabooed. And last year, she sat alone during the funeral of her husband of 72 years, Prince Philip, because of a COVID-19 restriction. Joanne, we have to change the words. Get by the censors. Joe Little, managing editor of the Majesty magazine, said members of the royal family are probably more concerned about the Queen because of her situation. You know, she's 90-friggin-5, Joanne. You know, the Queen has a busy schedule over the next few weeks of her Platinum Jubilee year, is scheduled to attend in-person public engagements in the coming weeks, including diplomatic reception at Windsor on March 2nd. And Commonwealth service at Westminster Abbey on March 14th. Joanne, we're doing it. March 29th, she has a remembrance service as well. Joanne, we're done with this friggin' story. People are done with hearing about the Queen and her cove. She seems to be fine, right? 19, she got it. She's done it. What's next on the storyline? Joanne, what's wrong with this feed? You can't get it to work? I'm doing it. I'm trying to do it. Oh, my goodness. You know, you ask Joanne to just put it on the friggin' screen. You know, Joanne, what is with you? I'm going to the next story then. I'm skipping this one. If you can't help me out, I'm going to the next story. She's the worst number 2, except, you know, the one in the toilet. Unearthed photos show John Glenn's orbit of Earth on 60th anniversary. Sunday makes 60 years since NASA astronaut John Glenn became the first American to orbit Earth. On February 20th, 1962, the Mercury 7 member set out on the agency's 3-orbit Mercury Atlas 6 mission aboard the spacecraft named Friendship 7. Guys, when they did the Friendship 7, what happened, Joanne? They did it. New images released to Fox News show the mission and Glenn in remarkable detail. Photoshopped. The pictures created by Apollo's remastered Photoshop edition, author Andy Saunders, were made using Photoshop footage provided by Steven Slater, who headed up the archive research and production with Stanley Kubrick for Apollo 11. Saunders, who had previously shared remastered images of Photoshop and the Apollo 15 moon landing, regularly posts new Photoshop images on Twitter and Instagram. Joanne, help me out here. I'm doing it. To produce each new image, Saunders told Fox News he stacked hundreds of new frames in Photoshop on top of each other in several areas of the film, averaging out the image noise, and stitched those frames together in Photoshop, Joanne. And we have some moon photos. And so each image contains more than 1,000 images that were sampled in Photoshop. And the output was then constructed using digital processing techniques in Photoshop. Glenn can be seen waiting for launch for more than 2 hours before the space flight, as well as in orbit, watching the booster and the curvature of the Earth, Joanne. He was watching it. Apparently, Neil deGrasse Tyson said you can't see that from the orbit. You need to be up in like by the moon to see the curvature. You can't see it from orbit. You wouldn't see it if you're at 120,000 feet. So how could John Glenn see the curvature of the Earth? I'm just saying, Photoshop. According to NASA, the initial launch attempt on January 27th was postponed due to the thick clouds and would have prevented observation of the rocket's ascent. Mechanical and weather problems added further delays. Following, Glenn boarded the capsule on Launch Complex 14 and what is known as Florida's Canaveral Space Force Station. Following additional delays and after nearly 4 hours in the capsule, the countdown reached 0 at 9:47 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, and the Atlas rocket's 3 main engines ignited. 4 seconds later, the rocket rose above the launch pad, and 2 minutes and 9 seconds after that, the 2 booster engines had been cut off and they were jettisoned, Joanne! After continuing to operate on the power of its center-mounted sustainer engine, Joanne, they have a sustainer engine. Do you have one of those when you're trying to get around? I know you're doing it. At 5 minutes and 1 second into the flight, the sustainer engine cut off, and Friendship 7 separated 2 seconds later. Glenn was in orbit, and Friendship 7 turned around, flying with its heat shield in the direction of the flight. Glenn snapped pictures and continued to report on his and the spacecraft's condition, successfully controlling the capsule's altitude and eating a tube of applesauce and xylitol pill before he was given the okay for his second orbit. You know, Joanne, we should get some tubes of applesauce for you, and I could just hang them from above you like a freaking carrot. And then you're like, and I have you like anchored so you can't get to it. And I'm just doing a torture deal here in the studio because I can't deal with that wheezing, right? Guys, you're there. Try to deal with the wheezing. It's too loud. Glenn snapped pictures, guys. Ooh, wow, look at that one. Wait a second. That's not him. What is this one here? Let's see. This is someone standing on the surface of the moon, guys. Did you see that? You got to go to YouTube to see it. This is a picture of somebody in Antarctica, or maybe down in friggin' like Mesa, New Mexico, doing it. Well, no, we're down in the friggin', look at me, I'm in the desert, and somewhere, I don't know where the desert, Joanne, I never traveled to the desert before. Death Valley, down there, doing Nevada's thing, somewhere in there. This is right by Area 50, this is Area 57. Right here is where this is where they film all the moon stuff. It's Area 57. You got to go and look it up, Joanne. I keep giving her knowledge today, guys, and she's so behind, 20-hour day. That's what we're supposed to be living. And it's really but 20 hours, an hour, every minute is 100 seconds, right? My Freddie Craco, how are you, my friend? So good to see you. Guys, we're here every day forever trying to bring a positive message. We are in the middle of reading the news, and apparently John Glenn did his thing, orbiting. He was doing it. He was doing an orbit. As Glenn passed over Cape Canaveral during the start of his second orbit, controllers noticed a signal indicating that the spacecraft's landing bag had deployed, meaning that the heat shield required for re-entry was no longer in place. Although engineers believe the signal was an error, they devised a plan to keep the retro rocket pack on after retrofire, with the aim of having the straps keep the heat shield in place. Although engineers believe the signal was an error, I freaking read that, Joanne! Stop scrolling me to the same line! Right? Glenn, who was not told explicitly about the issue, was advised to ensure the landing bag deploy and that the switch was to the off position. He was given the green light to proceed to his third orbit. Guys, this is where it gets freaking out of hand, right? A controllers instructed Glenn to he placed the landing bag switch into the automatic position and keep the retro pack in place after. What the frig? I don't want to read any of this stuff, Joanne. At 28,000 feet, the drogue parachute deployed early, and 10,800 feet. The 63-foot red and white parachute followed suit. Friendship 7 splashed down in the vicinity of Grand Theft Auto. It's Grand Turk Island. It's just funnier. At 2:43 EST, that's Esther Standard Time, Joanne back there. Glenn's first flight lasted for 4 hours, 55 minutes, and 23 seconds. He had a friggin' tube of applesauce. in that time. The closest vessel, the destroyer USS Noah, completed the retrieval from the water, and the recovery operation took 21 minutes. Glenn blew the side hatch, and doctors escorted him to the ship's sick bay for a medical examination. He was then flown to Grand Theft Auto, arriving there about 5 hours after splashdown. Later, President John F. Kennedy presented him with the NASA Distinguished Service Medal. Following a tour of February 22, 1963, NASA formally passed from Friendship 7 to the Smithsonian's Institute in Washington, D.C. When he was 77 years old in 1998, Glenn got a chance to fly again with 6 astronauts aboard the STS-95 Discovery shuttle flight. That was one with Captain Picard, too. Discovery. Glenn, who was born in Ohio on July 18th, 1921, which is literally, he's 101 years old. Did he die? What are we talking about over here? Later became a U.S. Senator and served in that role for 25 years. He was a senator. He also worked with college students at Ohio State University. Glenn was a Marine pilot during World War II, fought in Korea War, and became an airplane test pilot, setting a speed record in 1957 during a flight from Los Angeles to New York that took less than 3.5 hours. Guys, he was a bad dude. He died in Columbus, Ohio, December 8th, 2016, at the age of 95. God bless you, sir, for all of your hard work to leave this world a better place than you found it. I absolutely say this man was a credit to society. And God bless you, sir, in heaven. And wherever you are, wherever your spirit happens to be right now, I pray you shine something down on this world. We need it. Joanne. No, I was just saying your name. I wasn't asking for you to talk to you. She goes, what? Nothing, Joanne. I was just saying, I was just emoting. I was just basically like expelling my disgust for the world. And when I do that, I say your name. Sorry, that's how we would hear a Renaissance Man show. Joanne. Usually it's after I bang my knee. Joanne! You know, car runs over the toes when you're standing there saying goodbye to a friend, and he's just like, see you later, drives and runs over your toes. Joanne! You know, you're just screaming at stupid Joanne, you know. Pamela knows. Freaking Joanne. It's tough. We're doing our best with it, with her, you know. Try not to go insane. Oh! Oh my goodness, Joanne. No, I was just saying your name again, Joanne. I don't want to talk to you. She's always doing that. Trying to butt in, huh, Joanne? Trying to be a part of something when you're not. Just like include that humongocarditis in the conversation. I'd prefer if you kept it to your, you know, your side of the studio. You know. I want to help. I want to be in. Ugh. Really? Sorry, there's only enough room on this camera for me. Don't have any room for you here. That Humo car. She's here with, like, you know, really, really dealing with it right now, guys. I got soundproofing around me to try to block out the wheezing, but as you can tell, it's like the windows are open wide and she's right in my ear. No, I know, Joanne. It's dead on. I know. She goes, that's dead on. It's exactly what I sound like. Yeah, I know. One of these days, Joanne, I'm getting WD-40. We're fixing the file cabinet and your wheeziness at the same time. No. Again, if it says poisonous to humans on the side, I won't. But if it doesn't, all bets are off. On as much as how much I shoot into the, you know, the larynx. You got to make sure I get it into the, you know, the little crevices, your vocal cord area, the in-betweens, the larynx, doing it. You got the tonsillitis, you know, and together, you know, WD-40ing it. And then we're good. We don't have to hear the wheezing anymore. We don't have to hear the freaking file cabinet. It's like a, you know, you go into college and you hear like your buddy's in the room with his girlfriend of 7 years and you're like, oh, geez, they're at it again. And they're just playing like, you know, Doctor, that old gag. Yeah. You put your left foot here. Isn't that called like Twister? They were doing that too. They were doing a Twister and Doctor at the same time when they twisted into different areas. Oh, you see what you're doing here? That is actually your lateral sclerotular. And when you do the luter on the ladder, on the lateral side, you're getting an extra stretch out of that. Oh, yeah. Well, what happens if I put my hand on green? Oh, well, then you're using your bicep on that one. You put your left foot in, Sometimes you shake it all about, and then Joanne comes out of nowhere, wheezing it up, and you're like, I just can't shake it about anymore. I was until Joanne began a new sort of, I guess you'd call it like a trend on TikTok. The Joanne. Wheezing it up. You start seeing people post on TikTok going, like, oh, it's the Joanne. You start using this sound if you want to go viral. And it's Joanne wheezing. And people believed it, and nobody went viral. It was hilarious. No, I know, Joanne. That's your luck. You remember, you're death to the growth of life. That's you. You just bring things down. That was the way you were born. Your father, George Soros, when he made you, because we don't say gave birth, he made you, and he said a prayer that you would be as evil as him. That's where we are right now. It's sad for me because I signed you to a lifetime, blood oath here at Renaissance Man Show, and I got to deal with it. Zabrosk occasionally when he's here, but he's smart enough. He'll get in and get out. Get his check, grab his yoo-hoo, get the frig out of here. He's coming back tomorrow though. You remember day 1177, and 1177 tomorrow, guys. Right? No, 1148 tomorrow. Freaking A, we're 3 shows away from 1,150 days in a row. Living in a world of insanity, aren't we? Oh, goodness, fam and friends. They did the hokey pokey WD-40. Joanne's still here. And we're hoping that she'd fall asleep and the wheezing would, settle a little bit. Nope. No luck. No such luck on that one. We take it as we get it here at Renaissance Man Show. It's Mark Pyers. And it's Renaissance Man. I love you guys. I will see you tomorrow. Got to go away. Got to go away. Till tomorrow, fam. Till tomorrow.